Hello, neighbor. So today I'm feeling a little worn down. I feel like I confided in someone that I shouldn't have. And that's had me all sort of twisted up in a spiral for the past few hours. And I'm not really sure what to do about it. I've got some rice here. And I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the river. I've also got a um, blood orange fruit juice drink. And I felt like reading to you the first chapter of this book. And it's one of my favorite books. It has a lot of imagery in it and a lot of different it talks a lot. Well, it gives words um, I don't know. It's a it's a really interesting book. I first read it back in high school, um, sometime between 2009 and 2013, and I then eventually read it again. I remember reading the whole thing in a day, uh, by another river back in Indiana, the St. Joe River. And I read it during the 2020 uh, pandemic. The Yeah, one of the things that has me all twisted up right now, having confided in someone that I feel like I probably shouldn't have, um, is it has to do with that power structure that exists in workplaces and our inability to do anything about it, anyone's ability to do anything about it. And it's really disheartening to find myself talking about a problem with someone, being very specific about something, and realizing that the solution is nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be found. I'm thinking about I'm thinking about my own faith and how my own faith leads me to be vulnerable to many different things, and just the way that I've walked in this world, it leaves me vulnerable. And my faith, it talks, it like, part of it is to, it's to love. It's to lay down my life for others. And yet, the workplace isn't one of those places where that comes easily. A lot of times, workplaces are based on the functionings and the functions of it's just a paycheck. It's just putting in hours. It's just a salary. It's just this or that. And the larger community around those places is oftentimes just imaginary. And the community that takes place in those moments is oftentimes imaginary. It doesn't have to be that way. And I mean, the more and more I think back on all of these things, like, there was true community in those moments. But the thing that I feel right now at my workplace is people trying to take power over me in the way that they speak toward me, in the way that they talk to me, in the way that they won't communicate directly to me. Or they'll give me a task rather than, wait, aren't you on the same level as me? Or just the fact that I've got people above me, just in a I was hired at this place. There's no freedom from that here on this earth. And it's a lonely war to keep fighting against that. Because I do my best work when I don't have to fight against the powers that be. I'm gonna read this book. Chapter 1. I seemed to be standing in a busy queue by the side of a long, mean street. Evening was closing in, and it was raining. I had been wandering for hours in similar mean streets, always in the rain and always in evening twilight. Time seemed to have passed on that dismal moment when only a few shops have lit up and it's not yet dark enough for their windows to look cheering. And just as the evening never advanced to night, so my walking had never brought me to the better parts of town. However far I went, I only found dingy lodging houses, small tobacconists, hoardings from which posters hung in rags, windowless warehouses, good stations without trains, and bookshops of the sort that sell the works of Aristotle. I never met anyone but for the little crowd at the bus stop. The whole town seemed to be empty. I think that was why I attached myself to the queue. I had a stroke of luck right away, for just as I took my stand, a little waspish woman who would have been ahead of me snapped out at a man who seemed to be with her. "Very well then, I won't go at all, so there," and left the queue. "Pray, don't imagine," said the man, in a very dignified voice, "that I care about going in the least. I have only been trying to please you, for peace sake. My own feelings are, of course, a matter of no importance. I quite understand that." And suiting the action to the word, he also walked away. Come, I thought, that's 2 places gained. I was now next to a very short man with a scowl, who glanced at me with an expression of extreme disfavor, and observed rather unnecessarily loudly to the man beyond him, "This sort of thing really makes one think twice about going at all." "What sort of thing?" growled the other, a big, beefy person. "Well," said the short man, "this is hardly the sort of society I'm used to, as a matter of fact." "Huh?" said the big man, and then added with a glance at me, "Don't you stand any sauce from him, mister? You're not afraid of him, are you?" Then, seeing I made no move, he rounded suddenly on the short man and said, "Not good enough for you, are we? Like your lip." Next moment he had fetched the short man one on the side of the face that had sent him sprawling into the gutter. Let him lay, said the big man, to no one in particular. "I'm a plain man, that's what I am. I got to have my rights, same as anyone else, see?" As the short man showed no disposition to rejoin the queue, and soon began limping away, I closed up, rather cautiously, behind the big man, and congratulated myself on having gained yet another step. A moment later, 2 young people in front of him also left us, arm in arm. They were both so trousered, slendered, giggly, and falsetto that I could be sure of the sex of neither. But it was clear that each, for the moment, preferred the other to the chance of a place on the bus. "Oh, we shall never get in," said a female voice with a whine, in it from some 4 places ahead of me. Change places with you for 5, Bob, lady." And someone else said someone else. I heard the clink of money, and then a scream in the female voice, mixed with roars of laughter from the rest of the crowd. The cheated woman leapt out of her place to fly at the man who'd bilked her, but the others immediately closed up and flung her out. So, what with one thing and another, the queue had reduced itself to a manageable proportion long before the bus appeared. It was a wonderful vehicle, blazing with golden light, erotically colored. The driver himself seemed full of light, and he used only one hand to drive with. The other he waved before his face as if to fan away the greasy steam of the rain. A growl went up from the queue as he came in sight. Looks as if he had a good time of it, eh? Bloody pleased with himself, I bet. My dear, why can't he behave naturally? Thinks himself too good to look at us. Who does he imagine he is? All that gilding and purple, I call it a wicked waste. Why don't they spend some of the money on their house property down here? God, I'd like to give him one in the old ear. I could see nothing in the countenance of the driver to justify all this, unless it were that he had a look of authority and seemed intent on carrying out his job. My fellow passengers fought like hens to get on board. The bus, though there were... My fellow passengers fought like hens to get on board the bus, though there was plenty of room for us all. I was the last to get in. The bus was only half full, and I selected a seat at the back, well away from the others. But a tousle-haired youth at once came and sat down beside me. As he did, so we moved on. I thought you wouldn't mind me tacking on to you, he said. For I've noticed that you feel just as I do about the present company. Why on earth they insist on coming, I can't imagine. They won't like it at all when we get there. And they'd really be much more comfortable at home. It's different for you and me. Do they like this place, I asked. As much as they'd like anything, he answered. They've got cinemas and fish and chip shops and advertisements and all the sorts of things they want. The appalling lack of any intellectual life doesn't worry them. I realized as soon as I got here that there'd been some mistake. I ought to have taken the first bus, but I've fooled about trying to wake people up here. I found a few fellows I'd known before and tried to form a little circle, but they all seemed to have sunk to the level of their surroundings. Even before we came here, I had some doubts about a man like Ciro Blello. I always thought he was working in a false idiom. But he was at least intelligent. One could get some criticism worth hearing from him, even if he was a failure on the creative side. But now he seems to have nothing left but his self-conceit. The last time I tried to read some of him my own stuff. But wait a minute. I'd just like you to look at it. Realizing with a shudder that what he was producing from his pocket was a thick wad of typewritten paper, I muttered something about not having my spectacles and exclaimed, "Oh, look, we've left the ground." It was true. Several hundred feet below us, already half hidden in the rain and mist, the wet roofs of the town appeared, spreading without a break as far as the eye could reach.